This week on Jerusalem Dateline, from the caves of Qumran, we'll tell you about a Messianic feast celebrated 100 years before the birth of Jesus. And making the desert bloom, how Israeli farmers battle the elements to bring in their harvest. Plus, Brazilian Christians make a special visit to the Holy Land. What can an ancient Jewish community tell us about the Messiah? Welcome to Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. For decades, archaeologists have explored the ancient remains in Qumran. What they found was evidence of a community keeping watch for the Messiah, right down to celebrating the Messianic feast described in the book of Isaiah. CBN's Dan Reaney shares some of these amazing discoveries.
Jesus never walked here, and no battles were fought atop this mountain. Yet it is one of the most important sites in biblical history. Now, new discoveries are putting to rest decades of debate about Qumran and the people who lived here. Each day at dawn, as the sun rises and bathes the hillside in hues of rose and gold, a crew sets up tents in the cool morning breeze. Dr. Randall Price of Liberty University leads a team that is only the third in history to undertake a major excavation on the Qumran Plateau.
And this was a community unlike present-day Judaism. They were looking for their Messiah. They understood the scriptures. And so that fits more with what we understand, certainly in terms of the New Testament.
They were looking for Jesus Christ.
They had a very clearly defined understanding of who the Messiah was from the Old Testament scriptures, but then they had a developed view through the time between the Testaments, which is reflected here.
At this site, pottery and its contents will help define who lived at Qumran. One discovery has already drawn a direct connection to the Dead Sea Scrolls. This is the only intact oil lamp that's been found out here?
There was one just like this with a little shorter nozzle that was found in Cave 1 where the original scrolls were first found. It didn't have this little handle on the end. This is a Qumran-style oil lamp. It's around the 1st century BC. And so it's very unique, and it was found right here on the plateau along again with these deposits.
And the fact that you found this within the community and similar pieces in the caves really draws a tight connection between the community and the caves in the writing of the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah, certainly in the time period as well.
Previously, some scholars speculated the people of Qumran, the Essenes, simply stored the scrolls after they were brought there from Jerusalem. Some even suggested the Essenes knew nothing about the scrolls whatsoever.
For years, liberal scholars tried to say that Qumran wasn't a religious community, but a couple of discoveries really refuted that idea pretty solidly. Now first, oddly enough, was the location of their latrines. Now 2 different religious texts, believed to have been written by the people that lived right here, spelled out very specifically where latrines were to be located, far outside of the community, and how they were supposed to be used. So archaeologists followed those instructions like a treasure map. And it led them all the way up here, which is a really long walk to go to the bathroom.
With the proposed latrine site pinpointed, they started digging.
Now, they didn't find any structures up here, but biological archaeologists took a lot of soil samples. And what they did find were the desiccated or completely dried out remains of 3 different types of parasites, only found in the human digestive system, which is really gross, but still kind of fascinating.
No one knows exactly why Qumran was abandoned, but the reason may be connected to diseases caused by those numerous latrine rules. Their practices, which included having to wash in a communal bath after returning from the distant latrine, actually allowed parasites to flourish and spread. At the time, roughly half the population lived to be at least 40. But in Qumran, only 6% of the Essenes lived to be that old. Those rules in the distant latrines were meant to help keep the community pure and clean. So it may seem like a surprise that Price and his team have also found numerous animal bone deposits very close to the settled area,
We're finding hundreds of these burials, very carefully done. It's, by the way, the only place in the whole world we know of this kind of thing. And so they're taking the remains of meals that they ate, a communal meal, the ashes from the meal, the pottery that was used to cook the meal, the cooking pots and other things, the plates, the bowls, everything they served the meal in, and then they're burying them along with the bones and the ashes outside the community, what they considered a clean place. That shows a concern for Jewish ritual law.
Price believes the people who lived here were partaking in the Messianic banquet, a direct precursor to the Last Supper and Holy Communion. Its origins are found in the Old Testament book of Isaiah.
On this mountain, the Lord Almighty will prepare a feast of rich food for all peoples, a banquet of aged wine, the best of meats and the finest of wines.
That text is also reflected in a Dead Sea Scroll known as the Messianic Rule.
There it talks about people sitting down for some kind of communal meal.
They shall eat in common and bless in common and deliberate in common.
But it talks about the bread and the wine, the high priest, and then after him, the Messiah of Israel.
And when the table has been prepared for eating and the new wine for drinking, the priest shall be the first to stretch out his hand to bless the first fruits of the bread and wine. They shall separate from the habitation of unjust men, as it is written, prepare in the wilderness, make straight in the desert a path for our God.
Now they anticipated this based on the Isaiah passage being in Jerusalem. So I think they're perhaps rehearsing that here in a way as later Christians did when they took the bread, they took the wine, and it was anticipatory of the Lord's death until he comes. So they're looking for the Messiah to come, and then the bones and everything related to it, because this was a sacred meal, the vessels and things that cooked the meal could not be used for common use again.
So just as the sacrifices in the temple were treated as sacred and buried outside the temple area ritualistically, we're seeing the same sort of thing here.
I think so. These are probably people who were priests connected with the temple at some point. They came out here separating from the community in Jerusalem, but they're following the same religious law.
Each day, their work takes them closer to the culture of the people who lived here. They begin at dawn to avoid the overbearing desert heat. The work is slow and difficult, and they have to be meticulously careful, even though it takes pickaxes to break through the sometimes rock-solid ground. Even the smallest discoveries can prove significant.
We also have a jar handle we found just this season with a stamp in it.
So at first glance, you find something like this. It's a nice diagnostic piece, but
Right.
flip it over and you find a nice seal there.
Right.
While the jar handle is considerably eroded, experts at Hebrew University believe that is the Jerusalem seal from the Hasmonean period, roughly a century before Christ. Similar examples have been found in Jerusalem's Jewish quarter, but it's the first discovered at Qumran.
And that will give us the kind of dating we need in sites like this.
After a few hours of hard work, the team gathers for a late breakfast.
It's interesting, we're breaking bread in sort of the same general location where they would have been people in this community enjoying the Messianic feast. You have to think of that every time you sit down for breakfast.
We do. I mean, as our hands reach into the soil and touch the remains of their culture, we're kind of reproducing the same kind of cultural lifestyle, being in the same place.
Yeah, something not too many people have had the opportunity to experience.
That's right.
Soon it's back to work. With this season wrapped up, Price will need the next few years to analyze and present the data and to test some theories.
Now, do you see a relationship between the animals that were slaughtered here and the skins used in the writing of the Dead Sea Scrolls?
It's a possibility. We can get ancient DNA from the bones where the collagen's still intact. And so we're going to do DNA analysis also on the scrolls and see if we can have a link between the two. If so, conclusively can prove that those who lived here and had that meal are those who also produced the scrolls. It's the DNA between the two that'll make that connection.
Though they only lived there for a short period of time, the people of Qumran left behind perhaps the most important documents in recorded history. Documents that speak of a banquet for the coming Messiah.
And that seems to be a really strong connection between Old Testament and New Testament.
It is, and this is why the Dead Sea Scrolls are so important to Christian studies or New Testament studies, because they lived in a time when Jesus came and the formation of the church was taking place, and it's the only opportunity we have to see this narrow window that no one else explained to us. The Pharisees, the Sadducees left no writings, but these people did. And so we can see the material culture, like we're doing through an excavation, we can put that together with the written records and have a complete understanding of the time.
Right now, it appears the people of Qumran gathered together for ritual meals, honoring a Redeemer, the Christ, who wouldn't come for another 100 years. Through the work of Price and others, who these people were, what they believed, and how they celebrated the coming of the Messiah is slowly coming to light.
When we return, a former prime minister goes to jail, and President Barack Obama shows support for Syria's rebels.
The American Bible Challenge is back. Premiering May 22nd at 8, 7 Central. Jeff Foxworthy is ready to play.
The whole family's gonna love it.
Kurt Franklin's gonna sway.
Are you ready?
And you'll see the Bible in a whole new way.
Don't I look chic? That was impressive.
An all-new season premieres Thursday, May 22nd at 8, 7 Central. Only on Game Show Network.
Pat Boone here with some good news you can trust. Today, our faith, families, and our freedoms are under attack. Polls say 2 out of 3 Americans no longer trust government. A stalled economy, weakening dollar, and politicians willing to steal money from our children to waste on unfixable problems. So, whom can you trust? Well, our money still says in God we trust. But do we? Or have we quietly allowed the things we hold sacred to be stolen by the enemies of traditional values? Today, our government spends almost twice its income, running up a tab for future generations into the hundreds of trillions. How can you stop this from happening to your family? Well, it's all covered in a fantastic new book, The Great Withdrawal by Craig Smith and Dr. Lowell Ponte. Every American needs to read this book. Why don't you call now for a free copy of The Great Withdrawal? It's the simple truth you can trust.
The American Bible Challenge is back. Premiering May 22nd at 8, 7 Central. Jeff Foxworthy is ready to play.
The whole family's gonna love it.
Kurt Franklin's gonna sway.
Are you ready?
And you'll see the Bible in a whole new way.
Don't I look chic? That was impressive.
An all-new season premieres Thursday, May 22nd at 8, 7 Central. Only on Game Show Network.
Hello? Is this thing on? Hey, kids, do you love games? And do you love discovering things? Well, do ya?
Then you're gonna love this. It's the new free Superbook Kids Bible app. You can play games, watch videos, find answers to your questions, and a whole lot more. The new Superbook Kids Bible app. Free downloads available on iTunes and Google Play now.
Welcome back to Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Wendy Griffith with this week's news from the Middle East. A former prime minister of Israel is going to prison for 6 years. Ehud Olmert was convicted of taking bribes. He'll also pay a fine of more than $400,000. It's the first time in Israel's history a former prime minister will serve jail time. Olmert was charged in connection with a controversial building project in Jerusalem while he was mayor of the city. His lawyer says the punishment is severe and he'll appeal to the Supreme Court. But some Israelis thought the punishment was justified.
The justice system is finally doing something about a politician. You think that they're, above the law. They think that they're exempt from all consequences, and now there's some consequences.
We have an ex-president sitting in jail. We have ex-ministers sitting in jail. And Olmert did a lot for this country. Nobody takes it from him. But what he did was wrong. It was criminal. And unfortunately for him, he will have to serve his punishment, his sentence. That's it.
10 other public officials were also convicted of bribery and money laundering, including another former Jerusalem mayor and the chairman of a major Israeli bank. Well, 1 in 4 adults worldwide hold anti-Semitic attitudes. That's according to a new international survey. The Anti-Defamation League surveyed 102 countries asking stereotypical questions about Jews. If respondents agreed with at least 6 of the 11 of the questions, they were labeled anti-Semitic. Laos had the lowest level of anti-Semitism at less than 1%, while the West Bank and Gaza were the highest at 93%. And in Western Europe, Sweden was the least at 4%, while Greece was the most anti-Semitic at 69%. President Obama met with the leader of Syria's opposition forces this week. This as the Syrian government is gaining victories on the battlefield. And President Bashar al-Assad plans for victory in the election on June 3rd. The question now is Assad now almost certain to win the civil war there? Heather Sells reports.
Just days ago, the battered city of Homs stood as a rebel stronghold. But after the government's 2-year blockade and bombing campaign, the rebels have given up. Today, thousands of Syrians are streaming back into town, and the rebels are gone. Their surrender scene is paving the way for Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. The U.S. has already denounced his June 3rd election, calling it phony. This week, it's meeting in Washington with what it calls the moderate opposition and its leader, Ahmad al-Jarba.
His coalition, the Syrian opposition coalition that he has built, is an inclusive and moderate institution committed to the Syrian people and to the protection of all people, all minorities, all rights within Syria.
Just last week, the U.S. recognized this opposition group as a diplomatic foreign mission and pledged $27 million to help the rebels oust Assad. But is it too little, too late? Off the coast of Cyprus, international ships wait to collect the last of Syria's chemical weapons before a June 30th deadline, after Syria already missed an April cutoff. Early Tuesday, a leading human rights group said it has strong evidence that Syria used chemical weapons on rebels just last month. More grim news for a country that's already lost 150,000 people in its conflict. Humanitarian groups say more than 3 million Syrians have no access to essential goods and services. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Thanks, Heather. Operation Blessing teams are working in Jordan to aid Syrian refugees. Thousands have fled the violence between the Syrian government and rebel forces. Now they're living in abandoned buildings and makeshift camps. OB teams are helping local partners distribute emergency relief packs to the refugees. They include things like rice, lentils, and cooking oil, as well as basic hygiene supplies and necessities such as blankets. Well, up next, how Israel's farmers take the worst the desert has to offer and turn it into life.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
Announcing an important breakthrough in healthcare that can benefit everyone. If you or anyone you love needs affordable health insurance, regardless of a pre-existing medical condition, call Quick Insurance 123 today and get the immediate relief you deserve. Quick Insurance 123 was created to provide affordable health insurance to all uninsured Americans, with or without pre-existing conditions. This is not a discount card. This is a real insurance program that lets you choose from many affordable health plans. with access to doctors, hospitals, emergency services, and more. So call the number on your screen now and get the health coverage you need just for calling. As a special bonus, we'll send you a free prescription savings card that could save you up to 85% on your prescriptions. That's right. You could save up to 85% on your prescriptions just for calling. Call Quick Insurance 123 to find out how you can get affordable health insurance and receive your free prescription savings card just for calling. Don't wait. Getting a free quote is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Call today.
If you're an Israeli farmer, it's a constant battle against the elements, like lack of rainfall for one. But these Israeli farmers are constantly developing new ways to get bigger and better harvests. Farming in the desert is about battling the elements: a harsh climate, little water, and poor soil.
We are not the first, but maybe one of the first nations ever who really found the way to cultivate the desert and make it bloom.
When many Jewish people returned to the Promised Land in the 1800s, the land was dry and barren. Today, more than half of Israel is still desert. But just like the Bible says, Israelis have found unique ways to make the desert bloom and prosper. This is Moshav Hatzeva in the central Arava Desert. Located along the Jordanian border, this area gets about an inch of rain a year. And believe it or not, local farmers use that to their advantage.
From here to Europe, the distance is so short. It's a so natural market for Israel. We are here ahead of everybody because of the weather.
Despite the conditions, 500 farming families here produce 60% of Israel's fresh vegetable exports and 10% of its cut flour market.
We grow summer crops during the winter time.
Maayan Kidron oversees flour research that helps find alternative crops to improve the farmer's harvest in the Arava.
We've got a new ideas, a new production, a new products that we have. For example, this small round pepper, we call it Tweety. That's the name of the variety, Tweety. Round pepper, that's another option for the farmers to grow.
Each year, hundreds of people in the agriculture business visit a giant exhibition at Moshav Hatzeva to learn about experiments and technology. Entrepreneur Boaz Wachtel hopes to improve plant growth by regulating root temperature.
Each plant has an optimal temperature that it performs in that range.
Water pipes run along the roots, bringing cool water in summer and warmer water in winter.
When you keep that root at that certain range and you prevent the fluctuations of day and night temperature in summer and winter, then the plant performs wonderfully and it produces more yield and a better quality, and the cycle is also shorter.
Wachtel says he's seen great success.
We produced 120% more cucumbers. We had lettuce, 35% more weight. We had basil, 30% more. We had tomatoes that is usually planted in October. We planted them during the middle of the summer.
Alon Badihi is executive director of the Jewish National Fund. JNF has developed and forested the land of Israel for more than 100 years. He says it's the special commitment of these Israelis to the Arava that's making the land prosper.
Without this spirit and without this belief and without this creation and innovation in agriculture, in science, in what we see in the laboratory we just established together here in the Arava for the people of the Arava, it would never happen.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, the Arava Desert. Coming up, millions come to the Holy Land each year. Find out why a visit by Brazilian Christians is so special.
Do you have an idea for an invention or a new product? Brian and Alice Jagosh, the inventors of the halftime drill driver, did. They invented a power drill attachment that lets you drill, flip, and drive in seconds. Brian and Alice licensed their invention to the company that brought you the Snuggie, and it's now selling in major retailers nationwide. Look for the Invent Help Caveman on the package. If you have an invention that you would like to try to patent and submit to companies for possible review and want free information on how Invent Help may be able to assist you, call now. InventHelp is America's largest inventor service company with sales offices in more than 60 cities nationwide. Call InventHelp today for free information. Our clients made a financial gain with their invention, but this is just their individual result. Brian and Alice's experience is not typical, as only a very small number of inventions are licensed or sold in stores.
For your free inventors information, call 1-800-559-8567. That's 1-800-559-8567.
If you had a choice between going bald and a full head of hair, which would you choose? Advances in medical science have resulted in the world's first and only permanent solution to hair loss.
Yes!
You wash it, you cut it. It's your own real, naturally growing hair. When it comes to hair restoration, no one in the world has more experience than Bosley. The results look completely natural and are affordable on nearly any budget. But the entire process can't be explained in 60 brief seconds. So to find out more about this clinically proven and permanent solution to hair loss, call now to receive your free no-obligation information kit. It'll answer all of your questions about hair loss and hair restoration. Plus, we'll also send you this $250 gift certificate just for calling. Every day you wait, you're losing more hair. So don't put it off any longer. You owe it to yourself to find out the facts. Choose hair. Choose Bosley.
Call 800-868-9957. That's 800-868-9957.
Welcome back to Jerusalem Dateline. One of the things I've seen over the years is the many nations coming up to the city of Jerusalem. That was true recently when a group of Brazilians came to the Tower of David in Jerusalem's Old City to worship the Lord. From late afternoon and throughout the evening, Brazilians gathered to celebrate the God of Israel. Ana Paola Bessa led the worship. In her home country, she's performed concerts with as many as 1 million people. She believes Brazil has a special destiny with Israel.
I believe the Brazilian nation is arising to pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Many Brazilians from all over Brazil, they are coming to Israel in order to pray. Pray for Israel and pray for Brazil too, in this place, in this nation.
We have a big role in this because Brazil is under revival and the Holy Spirit is raising up the intercessors on behalf of the end times.
Bessa says Brazil's revival is changing the nation.
Today we have almost 40% of the population declaring that they are born-again Christians. And the churches are full, the people are open to receive Jesus, even on the streets.
Brazilians bring an exuberance to their worship.
The redemptive gift of Brazil, this joy, this celebration to Jesus, and that's why we bring it to Israel.
Amen.
Because it's our redemptive gift.
We believe we have a destiny, a prophetic destiny, to pray, to bless, and to bring the second coming of the Lord.
As you can see, the Brazilians have their own special exuberance in worship. That's it for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell. We'll see you next time right here in Jerusalem.